Going live. We're live in the current now. That's what it says, at least. All right, dude. Hey,
this is
listen.
the part where we're talking to no one again?
Yeah, this is the part where we talk to no one because no one is live here yet, so it doesn't really matter. I could say anything. I could give away all of my secrets right now. Doesn't matter. No one's even listening. No one cares. But dude, this should be the last. We should make this a point. This should be our last podcast / live stream, whatever you want to call it. This should be our last one where we don't have the Hooked on Wild Waters intro song. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna get that.
We need to create,
I'm gonna get that.
There's a way to do a video clip, like at the beginning, like the pot, like it gives us a countdown, or it's just like a loading screen while we're prepping the background or whatever we do in the background before it's.
And I've got that. I've got that intro clip. You know what I mean? Yeah. We did 5 seasons of Hooked on Wild Waters. I've got the intro clip. All we gotta do is edit it in QuickTime, edit, trim, and then say boom. And this, I'm Drew Gregory, and this is Hooked on Wild Waters.
He wants the secret. All the secrets now are going to be within the first 5 seconds of going live. That's when all the
we should reward the people who have no Well, I'm not saying you have no life, Matt. You just happen to be. It doesn't. But if you have no life and you're sitting there waiting on our little podcast to start to get the juice, you should be rewarded, dude. You should be rewarded if you're waiting on us. Which, let's face it, nobody is. But we should reward anyone who actually.
Waiting on us because we can't get a schedule together to go on at the same time.
That's true. That's true. But hey, we're climbing now. You guys should share this, man. I know we're a little bit of a mess sometimes, but someone should share this and let's build the live viewership up. I kind of hesitant to really post about this beforehand too much because schedules change, life changes, and I've got a toddler and another one on the way, which some of you guys some of y'all may have seen today. We announced our the new one that's on the way. My wife's 12 and a half weeks pregnant with a baby girl, so that's exciting. But anyway, life's a mess. I can never just throw that out there like we're going to go do this on this exact day, this time, and then it doesn't happen because she's really been sick during this first trimester. I mean, really sick, 4 times in the hospital. She's got something called HG, which is I think 2% of pregnant women get it. So it's basically intense, crazy nausea. Can't really hold anything down. She's been put on IVs and it's been rough. So anyway, but in the winter, I propose this. Let's compromise. Okay. Make a deal. Okay. I propose we get a schedule together for the winter because now that I'm up here in Northeast Ohio, dude.
So September then?
Yes. September. When it snows in September, the schedule will begin. No, I think, after the Tournament of Champions, assuming I make that for Hobie, I think we should get a schedule going, consistent one. Maybe we have a break during Christmas, a consistent schedule. We line out all different topics. We listen to you guys, the viewers, the fans, the listeners here, and we just get a real nice schedule going for a solid 4 months or something. To wait out this Ohio winter.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a plan. We could try and attempt at a plan. So,
what else am I going to do? Go fishing?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Up
Drill
here?
A hole in the ice?
In the ice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's way too slow for you, bud.
Yeah, I can't. I can't power. Can I power fish through the ice?
Not really, no.
No, I got to get a serious auger sponsor for that. The best, the fastest auger that I power fish. I don't stop. The ice doesn't stop me. I'm still chatterbaiting, just augering down, chatterbait up, auger the next hole, chatterbait up. So that'll be my plan. But no, in the meantime, we'll just do this. I think it's a better plan anyway. We get on a schedule, consistent Hooked on Wild Waters podcast. And anyway.
Yeah. Oh,
Jason's here. He says we can relax now. I can relax now. Jason, have you ever known me to relax? Jason Griffith, folks. I know that the answer is no. I don't relax. And we'll talk about that some here in this podcast during my recap of the, Bass Nation Kayak Series Championship. It was a lot of fun. So I guess we'll start digging into it because that's what people have come for. They want to hear that. We want to talk about it and, maybe mention a few. What's up, Dwayne Wally? I should send Dwayne a link to the StreamYard. Pop him in, but he's probably so busy right now and he's so wiped out, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure Dwayne is wiped as I am. My toddler's been taking naps. I've been taking it with him. I've been like, all right, I'm out. I'm still wiped.
You know me. I take naps every day. It's cool.
Yeah, that's right. Nothing wrong with that. But hey, Dwayne did a good job And I was able to go on the Serious Angler podcast last night, talk about it, recap the Classic and recap the Kayak Championship. And, Patrick Malone, Dwayne Wally, they did an amazing job. So shout out to you, Dwayne, and the crew at Bass. I know sometimes your hands are tied, and we all know that. And you're doing the best you can, and it turned out great. So for a start, for the beginning of this, Ken, I'm telling you, we'll get into it more in this podcast. You'll hear about it, but it really did go off smoothly. I mean, there's so much more to this with Bass than with KBF and Hobie. There really is, and I'll get into it later. There's a lot more to it. So they're doing the best they can to try to make changes, make improvements, but it's just going to be a little bit slower process. And that's okay. We'll hang in there. So I love Bass. Always been a big fan. Had the magazines when I was a kid. Always looked forward to those, and so we're gonna keep plugging away because it's only getting better from here. So we're excited. But let's dig into it. Unless you wanna have anything else you wanna talk about off the top here.
I mean, nothing intro wise. So if you want to start off with the big tournament, then let's just get into it. Let's dive right in.
All right, let's do it. So I'll quickly recap this thing. So I'll start even back a little further. My strategy, it was very interesting because as you guys know, I'm obviously the reigning AOY for the Hobie series. I desperately want to defend that. You know what I mean? I haven't talked about that, but of course you do. You want to defend it the same way Hank Cherry wanted to win the Classic again. You want to defend that. I've got 1 4th place finish and a 40-something at Dardanelle. Not good. So I've got one good finish. I was very tempted. Very tempted to go to Sam Rayburn, which would have made me lose a day of practice for Possum Kingdom for this championship. But I decided, I was like, you know what? I still have Champlain. I still have the Susky. I did well there. I still have La Crosse. And if I really needed to go to maybe Pickwick or something, I'll do that too. I could maybe tweak the schedule. Of course, this is all, now that everyone knows the news that we're expecting another trial, this is all dependent on how she feels. She's feeling better, fortunately, but I'm not going to leave her hanging either. So I've been dealing with that in the background here. But anyway, I decided I'm going to skip Sam Rayburn. I talked to Cody Milton. I almost had him convinced to skip it. Not that I was trying to. Trust me, Hobie, AJ wasn't trying to get anyone to skip your tournament. But I told Cody, I was like, look, I would maybe hedge because he really wanted to fish it. And I was like, dude, you're young. You can probably go do that, drive up, still get up early in the next morning on it would have been Monday morning and fish Monday and Tuesday and get 2 days of practice in. Dude, I can't do it anymore. I can't do it like Cody and the younger guys. So I told him, I said, look, dude, why don't you just fish the first day? And if you're in the running to win, fish the second day. If you're not, bounce. And that's what he did. He had 77.5 and ended up heading up to Possum Kingdom. So I decided, even though, because I'd already booked my Airbnb, I think I even had it as early as the 3rd. But because of the situation with the wife wasn't feeling good, I ended up getting in there on the 4th. And our pre-fishing didn't start till the 6th. So I had a little bit of time on the 4th to drive around, look at a few spots. And then again on the 5th, I had a chance to just drive around, get organized. How many times are we rushing to tournaments, right? We rush, we're scrambling. We don't have as much time to pre-fish as we want. We're getting our groceries, we're getting our Airbnb set up or our campsite, and it just takes longer than you think. So my plan was I wanted to miss the Hobie just because I wanted to be so prepared and so relaxed at this event and just so ready come game time because, and yes, it may not have been the biggest payout we've ever seen or anything. It was a good payout. Okay. It was good, but not as great as I think some people were expecting, but I think we're going to see that continue to climb. But the payout's greater than the payout, especially when it comes to bass because of their name. Trust me, when you say you're when Mark says he's the champion for the Bass Nation Kayak Series, and he goes to sponsors, it's no shade to kayak bass fishing or Hobie or any other trail out there that someone's the AOI for or the champion for. It holds more weight. It just does. It just holds more weight. So, that's why I really wanted to focus and be ready and relaxed and prepared. And that's why that I feel this tournament had a greater value for the winner than just the payout. It's more than just the payout. It's the airtime, being on stage, the exposure, be able to have the name, that you are the champion for bass. And, obviously we're going to see payouts grow, but that was important to me. And I think anyone who's trying to do this more full time for a living, that should have been, important to them too. So anyway, I get there early. I get my groceries. I get everything done. I drive around. I just scout as much water as I can, as many access points as I can. Because that way, during the very limited amount of practice time, again, if you're listening, guys, this tournament was so cool because it was ran like a real professional tournament where we had an off limits period from May 10th all the way until I think it was June 5th. June 5th was our first day to be on the water. So we had the 5th, 6th, and 7th. About half day on the 7th, well, till 2 p.m. So 2.5 days of practice. This levels the playing field. No one could just camp out there for 2 weeks and learn the lake. It really did level things out. So I decided that, hey, I'm not going to waste my time on the water fishing those very limited 2.5 days, driving around looking and seeing where the access spots are. You know what I mean? I can do that on the day before the off limits period is up. So that's what I did. So I felt really good because the lake, in reality, when you get there, it's not that big. It's actually not that hard to make it all the way around in a day if you're just scouting out different ramps and access points. So between the day and I'll say a day and a few hours, that first day I got there with some daylight left, between what I had done those days, I already knew like where all the access points, I knew what the water looked like in some of the areas. So I was able to actually start Xing off some of those waypoints, some of those pins that we've talked about in our previous podcast on scouting and pre-fishing. Like what you do, you build your Google map with your pins. I was able to go ahead and X some of those off and just start, knocking some of those off so I could focus on the ones that looked more promising. And I got on the water that first day pre-fishing. Now, there had been a lot of rain in this area. Even before the rain that did come on the second day of pre-fishing, the morning of the second day, a lot of rain. But the lake was still, it was pretty clear for a down. If you look at the map, guys, if you've never seen this lake, it's mud red coming in from the Brazos River because it's a free-flowing river feeding 200 miles of the West Texas desert. I mean, the headwaters are technically in New Mexico. And we're almost all the way to Fort Worth. It's just a long westward or eastern run, I guess you could say, for that water to make it over there. And it's just salty, muddy desert, never as clear. So if you look at the map, there's always red at the very top of this lake. But because there is salt content, which we talked about on the I guess it was a preview show with Scotch and Guillermo, I mentioned it maybe, that salt content helps clear this lake out tremendously. So usually it's only murky for like the upper maybe 1/4 of the lake. Well, the first day it was probably that I pre-fished. It was, since we had a bunch of rain, it was murky for, there we go. Hey, man, what a producer we have here, guys, showing the maps. You can see where that river comes in, and it starts to, so where that pin is actually, that's probably where the mud normally kind of gets to when it's moving. Maybe there, like murkiness, but then down where the island is just south of you there, Ken, right there, that big island, that's about as far as the mud was on the first day of pre-fishing. So not bad, right? You got a bunch of lake that's still super clear, and it really never gets muddy. This is going to come into play later. It never really ever gets muddy down by the dam, where you've got 20 and 25 foot visibility down by the dam, real deep water. And right there, it's all the way in that last third. It stays super clear all the time. I mean, never really gets muddy, just maybe a couple times a year. Well, just our luck. After that first day of pre-fishing,
times a year,
it flooded like in rain like you had never seen. I got screenshots of the radar. It did. So the mud line moved all the way down because they had to open floodgates to that area, but it made its way slowly during pre-fishing. So nobody really knew. Like, you're pre-fishing an area, like, down there in the lower end of the lake where it looks like a Chinese dragon. See that area, that whole wavy area? Yeah, all that. You're pre-fishing. If you pre-fish there, and a lot of guys did, I did not, you don't know if that mud is the mud line is going to move into your area the next day pre-fishing. We were all just on pins and needles, like, what's going to change about my area? But I'll tell you this, the first day pre-fishing before that rain hit, I'd gone up a couple different creeks. I'd found some moving water. I found some fish that had bit. I left it alone. I said, boom, got it. I know where I'm fishing. And of course, the rain came. And of course, the rain's not just muddying up that big river. It muddies up those creeks. So it blew out my entire strategy. And I'm pretty sure it rained two days in a row. It did 2 mornings in a row, even the last day of pre-fishing. So here's something crazy I did. It's after I'd found fish in the area that I thought was good. And I actually had a couple places. I was able, that first day of pre-fishing, once I had found fish in one creek, I went to another one, found fish there. And I already had like 2 or 3 places that I could pop in real quick with my small Crescent ultralight kayak and pull out. So I had a strategy of, it just reminds me a lot of Eufaula for the Bass Nation Kayak Series, where I had an idea where I was going to put in my little ultralight in the morning early, get onto a couple little lake bites here, and real quick pull out and go to an area and use my solo skiff with the motor guide, the XI5 and the 105-pound thrust. So that was my strategy. Well, it all got blown up. Everybody's strategy got blown up when, yeah, I gotta tell that story, Dwayne, about the goat too. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. So anyway, that was my first day. That was my plan. And then the next morning, the rain hits, but we didn't know the rain was going to happen because these thunderstorms, guys, the thunderstorms popped up literally just out of nowhere. It's not like a front was coming. We didn't know this was going to happen. I mean, it was flash flood warnings on your phone. The lake got super high. But I'll tell you this, because Dwayne mentioned it, and I want to make sure I don't forget it. I did, on the way back to our Airbnb, and by the way, when I say I was staying with Tim Perkins and Lance Cooley. So a couple other guys that like to do some river stuff. So there's animals there at this Airbnb. And if you guys go on my social media, you can, on Instagram, especially, you can see a video of this. And they had chickens and goats and a few other things. And I came back that first day after pre-fishing, and this goat had stuck his head out of the gate, the fence, and to eat the grass on the other side. The grass is always greener, right? That's what they say. He sticks his head out and he's eating it all. Well, I guess at some point he eats all the grass right there, and then he's just stuck because his horns went through this perfect size square that he has to push them through to get to that grass, and then he can't back out. So, of course, I go over there. I feel for this goat. I was like, I got to save this guy, like I'm some sort of big hero. Little did I know, if I would have read the Airbnb instructions, it says if the goat gets stuck, text us, and we'll come save the goat. So apparently it happens all the time. But I was like, hey, I'm gonna take it on myself to save this goat, and then I'll just feel good, like I did something positive today. And I eventually work him out of there. It took me a while. He was very, very stubborn. And I get him out of there, and then I joke around to, on social media that, hey, there we go. I'm like, hey, this has got to be worth a 20-inch, at least a 20-inch bass. When I save this goat, the fishing gods have to reward me, right? So then the next day it happens again. So I'm like, dude, this is like 2 20-inch bass that the fishing gods, I deserve, right? Come on. Saving this goat. And the third day it happens again. I did it like 3 times. And every time I'm getting very fast. I talked to the owner. They said, oh yeah, you don't have to do that if you don't want to. I'm like, hey, it's no big deal now. I can pull it off in like 30 seconds. Because they actually told me I can touch the goat below its chin and it doesn't fight as much. But when you pull its horns, he fights. So once I started getting, the fact that I could touch under his chin, I didn't know the thing was going to bite me. I didn't want to put my hand near his mouth. So under his chin was easier, but it was still hard to get him out. So third time I get him out. Okay. Well, the final day of pre-fishing, Tim Perkins back at the house, he shows me, and remember, it reminds you, and I'll get to this later, but at this point, the last day of pre-fishing, a day I thought I was going to be just kicking back and rigging up and putting my feet up and just chilling. Everybody's scrambling, everybody, because the whole lake has changed 100%. You got to drive around, look at all the water, where you fish pre-fishing, figure out, is it still clear? Is it just mud red? I mean, it looked like this crescent banner behind me, dude. It was that seriously like bad. So anyway, he shows me this picture. Tim does. And I'm like, it's the goat. His head's stuck in the fence. Well, I'm like, why are you showing me this picture? And he's like, he looks at me how Tim Perkins does. And he's like, cause you left him hanging this morning. You drove right. He's like, he goes, you drove right past that goat and didn't even look twice because you were too focused on those fish. And I'm like, yeah. Well, anyway, I felt horrible. I guess he got I guess he got saved by somebody that day.
Yeah.
The owner.
That's exactly like you did a pretty spot on Tim Perkins there, though. Like you were pretty close. That was exactly what how he would have said that for sure.
Hey, you spend a week with the guy, and Lance,
I bet Lance just shook his head.
I could probably do a pretty good Lance too. Yeah. He's all like, yeah, seems about right, Drew. I can see fish being up in that creek. Yeah. Anyway, so I ended up, we'll get to more of the story here, but if you guys didn't know, I did end up fourth in the event. I ended up was second the first day with 100 inches and had 91 3/4 the second day. But on stage, I told the story about the goat, and I said, look, this is where I really messed up. We can talk about my spot, my baits, everything else. I just did not save that goat that last time to get one more 20-inch fish. So that's where I lost it, man. But back to the fishing. So day 2, here's what I did. Day 2, everyone's trying to get on the water and just figure out what's clear, what's not. But it rained hard that morning where we couldn't even get on the water until probably like 8 because it's just thunderstorming, lightning, just poof, and everything's flooded. So I said, what am I going to learn? I'm going to learn 0 on the water, nothing. So I drove around to any sort of other obscure places I thought could hold fish that were in our boundaries, but they were a little further away, a little bit off the wall, just kind of zany, stuff that I never thought I would even drive to and check out. So I just did that and just waited for the water to just come down. And I think I might have finally got on the water for a little bit late that day. I wanted to let the whole day and all the water flush into the lake. And then, so anyway, I definitely looked at the creeks that I found the fish in, and I looked at them at some bridges upstream. They were just so flooded. It's like, okay, my creek is done. I'm not going to catch fish in the style I want to catch them in this tournament. I pretty much have just, come to that conclusion. I need to go probably to the lower lake with everybody else. Like literally everybody was going to be launching pretty much that lower end of the lake. And I just need to, I guess, fight it out. But I was still holding out hope. So the final day, I got up early. I got out there pre-fishing. We only had till 2:00. And I was able to find a new and different pattern, which I'll talk about this. Again, guys, I don't reveal everything. This is like, we give away a lot of good tips and tactics here, but I can never reveal everything. But I'll tell you this. I found a pattern where if it was a creek that was not a true creek, right, with a lot of drainage, which still had muddy water coming into it, but just a ditch, that water was already clearing up. You know what I'm saying? Like it was already clearing up. So at the very back of a lot of these pockets, and you had to fight through trash to get there sometimes. I'm talking like a lot of trash from the flood and from just the wind blowing it in there. And maybe you get in there and it would just be no fish. Maybe there'd be a 15, 16-inch fish. But I saw some pretty big fish that I pulled my bait away from in the backs of some of those. Now, it's not the greatest pattern, honestly, because other people probably figured it out too, that there was some clear water coming into these non-creeks, but are like dotted line, if you will, on a map, drains.
Yeah.
And if somebody goes back there and catches them, and then you don't know that they've already gone back there, and then you go back there and there's no fish, or they don't bite. I mean, if at some point, obviously the first couple you go in, you can see if people are around and you can probably get some fresh fish. But that's a very, scary pattern. But I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to do this in my area near one of those creeks because I did that last day of practice. I did check on my creek from the lake, and it was stained. It was bad, but I was actually kind of surprised at how much it already cleared up from being just so red. And then I went and I drove to it like 15, 20 miles upstream, because if water's rushing 2 miles an hour, you can do the math. If I go 15, 20 miles upstream, that water there is the clarity that's coming, right? And then when I drove there the night before, it's the last thing I did pre-fishing, and I saw that water, I said to myself, this could actually still come back into play. It's like been a day and a half since this flood, right? I mean, it's insane that this could come back into play. Yeah. But I said, well, I'll start with the pattern where they're back, the clean water coming in the back of the ditches. I'll start with that because I know I got that. And then I'll go to this creek arm later in the day because I'll give it as much time as possible to clean, right?
Yeah.
And so I did that. I caught fish. I caught a few fish in the back of the little creek pattern thing, but not like I thought was going to happen at all. Not nearly as like I saw the day before, which forced me to go to the actual, bigger flowing creek a little bit sooner than I wanted to. And man, I'm so glad it did because, it was like 11 something before I really got back in there, and I didn't have a limit, and I found a spot where they were just stacked up due to the current. They were relating on current, positioning with the current and how high it was. It allowed more fish to be in that area. In a spot that I pre-fished on Sunday, never caught a fish in this area. So I eventually did just land on a big, huge, just pack of them, dude. And I threw the Project Z chatterbait, right? This is the one I was throwing. This is the one with the 5-inch diesel minnow, as you can see there. And then, but my main one came on the 3/8 ounce with the same green pumpkin diesel minnow. And I use my little surgical tubing things there to hold them on. And honestly, if I have to really admit it, man, I love the Project Z, and it still is my favorite. But I do think that the keepers on the jackhammers, this is a stealth jackhammer, are a little bit better when you're skipping, because you don't have to rely on so much on the tubing. It holds a little bit better. But I'm holding this one up because in pre-fishing, they were hitting a white one. The water was staying, they were hitting white. So during the tournament, I was throwing white that first day. It's murky, and white stands out really good. And for some reason, they wouldn't hit it. And I was like, man, I wonder if I should just switch to dark. Because here's my theory. I don't know if I've ever talked about this before, Dr. Noisewater, but on our podcast, have I mentioned this? I don't think I have. But you notice, guys, how you see the words Realtree Recap up there, and how when you made this beautiful graphic, you chose black to put those words in because that stands out really well against that gray. But you could have chosen white. It almost would have stood out just as equal, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Back me up here. So, so whenever you're making a graphic, you want whatever stands out. The contrast, the opposite with that sort of neutral color right there. And oftentimes it's as dark as you can get, which is black, or as light as you can get, which is white. That's it. Usually that's it. Fishing in murky water, there's a reason why so many people are like, oh, it's black and blue. It's green pumpkin. It's your darkest color. That's what I always use in stained water. It always works. That's what I catch them on. But then there's also another reason why you'll have another guy over there, blue in the face, arguing he catches them on white, and white stands out more. It's all about choosing the color that contrasts the furthest from the mud. Does that make sense? So that's my theory. But for whatever reason, I don't know, they would not hit this white on day one. They would not hit it. And maybe they would have once I got to this sort of magical area, but they would hit this green pumpkin and they would crush it. And the spot I found, guys, man, when it's like an offshore school of fish. When you find 100-something fish, on a Kentucky lake or Chickamauga or somewhere where they're just munching and chewing on every cast. And again, it's not me. I don't really do that style of fishing a lot, but you throw in there and you get them fired up and it's just like, boom, boom, every cast. And the quantity is there in the offshore schools too. We don't see that kind of quantity in rivers. It's like one good one here, maybe one good fish a mile, if it's a smaller creek or a river. We kind of pick it apart like that. It's never like, oh, there were like, 20 in this one hole. There were 4 pounds. Just doesn't work like that in rivers and creeks. But when the water was high and the way it was happening, and there was a bunch of shad that were in there, I think they were just in that current position, just right. It was loaded. And I would cast that bait in there. And before I even could engage, basically right when I engaged the reel, which I'm a big proponent on, your bait needs to be moving the second it hits the water. And I never let it just sink. You know what I mean? Spinnerbait, anything, buzzbait. It's like my handle is moving instantly, right?
Not paying attention. We're talking about some of that juice you guys were asking about earlier.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's right. Duck Tran, the juice.
Just a reminder.
And what's up to my boy Jason Bradford here? What's up? He is a longtime friend. He was a guy with me who I fished with when I was we were teenagers, just kids in Georgia. Caught lots of big fish with this guy, wading rivers, just doing stupid stuff. And from our church youth group. And my nickname was Scoob because I could do the Scoob, the Scooby, Scooby from why am I blanking now?
Cartoon?
Yes. Scooby-Doo. I guess that's the name of the cartoon. But anyway, it was but what's the dude? Shaggy. It's the Shaggy. It was Shaggy.
Yeah.
That was actually his voice, and I would do it anyway. But Jason's a good dude and stayed in touch and still loves to fish too, so it's pretty cool. But anyway, here's the juice. Back to the juice. The juice is this.
Engage the reel,
Yeah.
get the lure moving.
You always want your lure moving. When you're using moving baits like I like to use power fishing, your bait needs to be moving instantly. And if you didn't go watch I did post this on social media. I don't think I've posted on YouTube, but I will. If you can even let it hit the bank or go over a log, with these single hook lures, a spinner bait, chatterbait, let it go over that log or that piece of structure and then just gently plop it over. That's even better because then you can control the amount of splash. You can kind of take a deep breath, get ready, move it real slow, and then just be everything ready to set the hook because they're probably going to bite right off of that piece of structure, right off that bank when they're holding tight. So basically I would skip it up underneath this area. Sometimes I would just cast it along this bluff wall. And the second it would hit off of the bluff wall, right? The rock, the mud, like it would engage. And it's like they were just sitting there with their mouth open, dude, just like that. I'm serious. I'm not kidding. Literally, they would be on. And this is a chatterbait. There's no vibration in the rod. You throw it over there, and they're on already, right when it hits the water. And that's how crazy the spot was and how fired up the school was and how competitive they were, which tells me there's a lot of them, and obviously I knew there was bait there. I could see bait. There was birds in the area. So that's how it kind of went down on day one. But here's the crazy part of the story, guys. This is where the story gets bananas. It's about, I catch a 22.25-inch fish, my biggest fish, right? I want to say I catch it on, hang on, I'm going to check this message from Shane. Let's see if he, Shane Lamar might come on with us here. I'm going to send this to you, Ken, if you can. Can you send him the link to this? He can come on? All right, I'm going to send this real quick to you, and then we're going to get him on because Shane was out there with us, and I'd like to hear some of his thoughts. So anyway, back to the story. So I catch – so basically I've got a 19.25 I caught early in the morning, one of my back water pockets that had some clear water. I've got, like maybe a 16, a small 14. I got some small fish, not a limit. I get to this amazing area, right? And I quickly catch like a 16, a 17. And then maybe I got I think I did catch the 22 next, the 22.25. But when I catch this fish, guys, I drift away from the spot. I'm getting kind of blown around everywhere. I drift away and I hit my motor. I hit the motor guide to get me back up there, right? Because I want to kind of get, back up to this area. I don't want to drift off it too far. And when that happens, it grabs my line. My line must have still been in the water. It pulls my rod into it, breaks my rod tip. And now I'm drifting. I've got no motor. And I've got this huge fish in my lap. And I've got just this, obviously I got to pick up my bending branches paddle, get myself back in position, get over there. Finally, I get the fish scored. I release it. And then here's when it gets a little crazy. At some point during all this, I guess I'm thinking when I was leaning over to release this fish, my remote from my motor guide dangled down off my lanyard into the water. And I apparently did not have the screws tightened down very well from the last time I changed the batteries in my remote, which controls the motor, obviously. There's no foot pedal. I didn't bring a foot pedal, didn't bring any extra remotes, and it fried the remote. And there's no controls on the motor. So I realized, after I tried to change batteries, I thought my battery was dead. My Lithium Pros was dead. So then I realized when I opened the remote to change, because I do have extra batteries in my dry bag for this remote. So I opened the remote up, and I'm going to get to that question Jason offered. So I opened it up, and there's water in the remote. And at that point, I know it's fried. And it's like I want to say it's one, little after one.
Yeah,
and I am
you bring with you as a backup though. Like you never.
No,
you have that?
I used to bring like a foot pedal or just to have a backup way to control the motor in case something happened. But I mean, I had batteries for a reason in case something happened to the I just never thought it would fry, be the remote. So I am in a serious, struggle on what to do because I am in a solo skiff that weighs 150 pounds and 42 inches wide with just a bending branches paddle, which thank God I remember to bring my paddle because sometimes you just get arrogant, and cocky that you got a motor, you can do whatever you want. I brought that paddle. I always bring the paddle with me. I've had to use it several times when things, go wrong like this. So I am 2.5 miles away. I'm far away from my launch, and there's no cell service. So it'd be one thing if I had cell service and I could submit all these fish. Who cares how long it takes me to get out, right? And get back home to the Airbnb, because we have to be done fishing by 2. So who cares? There's a ton of day left. I don't mind just taking a leisurely paddle. Great. But I had no service. So now I'm just like, oh. So I'm like, I got to go. Because it's like a little after 1. And I don't know how long it's going to take me to get back and to drive to get service. But then I said to myself, oh, they're biting. I just caught a 22. It's like, I need to paddle back up here and just make a few more casts, see if I can. So I paddle back up, and then boom, like almost the next cast, it's like a 19 something. And then on my GoPro and stuff, I'm talking to myself. I'm like, I gotta go. Cause all this may not matter. If you don't get your fish in by 2:30, it may not even matter. So then I'm like, oh, okay. I gotta make at least one more cast. I gotta cast again. I cast in there again. It's like another 19 something. And then I did it. I just watched the video back today. I did it 3 times in a row after I caught that 22. I caught 3 fish in a row within a 10-minute period, probably. And now it's about 1:30. And I was like, I have got to go and leave these fish. Even though the fish were still biting, I figured, hey, I need to leave some for tomorrow anyway. I knew everything was over 19 inches in my stringer, I believe. So I knew that. I was like, I'm good for today. Let's just roll.
And that brings me to Jason's question.
Right.
He wanted to.
Day 1, I never, yeah. So yeah, day 1, second place, 100 inches, Joe McElroy, which by the way, I definitely want to mention this, huge congrats to Mark Pendergraph and Joe, Brad Case, the guys that finished above me. I don't ever want to forget that. I mean, I didn't win the tournament, guys. I got 4th, and this is of course my recap, but we always like to make sure we give ample credit to those guys who took the title, and they're going to be on a lot of podcasts. So yeah, good job, guys. They're going to be on a lot of podcasts and already have been on some. So go listen to those guys and how they caught them. The only thing I will say real quick about how Mark caught him, the only thing I know is he found his school. Oh God, he found his school at the boat ramp that everyone launched from. And he literally would just let everyone, it's all like once it's time to, everyone just goes out from the launch, right? And it's just, there's 30, 40 kayaks just going right out. He just went with them. And then he kind of sidles back to the back of the pack and then just turns right back around, just sits right there until line's in and catches them right there. Everyone's racing all across this whole lake. He could have caught him from the bank. I mean, he could have got his fish from the bank. It's insane. So that was pretty cool. It was very special. So Jason offered, back to your question, which by the way, great seeing you out there. And, just if you don't know Jason, you guys should follow him on social and what he's doing. He can really catch him over there in Georgia and anywhere he goes. So anyway, I obviously didn't have a chance to back off that spot on day 1. I found it too late in the day, really. It was like 12:30-ish before I really found the real spot within the spot that just had him loaded. But day 2, so thank God for Shane, who may join us here in a minute. Shane Lamont, he's on the Motor Guide Pro Team. He's from Bass Thumbs. If you look him up on Instagram, I think it's Bass Thumb Fishing or Bass Thumb. He'll tell us in a minute. But he came all the way from California on the Motor Guide team. He had an extra remote with him, and I had my foot control with me too, but I wanted a remote. I didn't have an extra with me. So I met up with him. He was staying with Greg Blanchard and Gene Jensen and Jason Borofka, who ended up in 6th place, I believe. So I went over there and he gave me his remote. So thank you so much to Shane for that. That was pretty cool. It saved the day for me on day 2. So now, Jason, I'm pumped. Like, I got 100 inches. I am in 2nd place. And Joe, I'm thinking there's no way he's going to catch 107.5 inches again. And I've got a spot that I left all these fish, that we're eating. So I've got a working motor. I'm going to go straight to the spot instead of messing around in other parts of the lake in the back of these creeks and coves. I'm going straight there because I want to go straight to the juice so I could catch what I could catch in the morning, let it rest for a couple hours, go back, catch again, let it rest maybe one more time, and go back a 3rd time, if possible. So what I ended up doing was, pretty much just that. There was one little back creek area that I was able to fish on the way in that I caught a 19 and a quarter out of on day one. And I did catch a couple fish there. It felt good to get a couple keepers real quick. And I actually wanted to hit that because that was another spot that I wanted to hit, let rest, hit again midday. So I hit that, caught the keepers, went to the juice, and it's like 7 in the morning. And you can look at I guess you can't look at the time because I didn't upload them then. But basically, when I get up to this area, guys, I'm telling you right now, like it's like you've got your baits tied on, you've got everything ready. You know they're there. You know they're still going to be there because the water's still up enough, and they were positioned based on that high water. Heart is just pounding because as I start pulling up, I see one giant white bird, another one around the corner, another. By the time I get up to this area, there are 15 of the why am I blanking on the name of the giant the egrets? What's the giant white ones? The fish-eating birds. They're not heron. Someone in the comments, help me out here. Oh, geez, I don't know. But anyway, the big white fish-eating birds, right? Lining up everywhere. 15 of them. Shad are flipping out everywhere. Bait is going nuts everywhere. And I know they're there, and there's a lot of them, and it's going to go down. I mean, I just know it. And I get up there, and sure enough, it's just boom, boom, boom. Just thank you, Daniel Perry. Is it a crane? Egret? Yeah, Braves win. Thank you. I think it's an egret. I think that was right. It's an egret. And I just know if they're fish-eating birds or not. Okay, I'm not like one of the guys that knows every species of the birds. I just know the ones that eat fish and the ones that do not, and that's all that matters. You see those? That's a good sign. Thank you, guys. All right, egret. So I get up there and it's just loaded. Okay, no other place on anywhere I've seen on this lake. There we go. That's the one. Those are the ones. Has birds like this anywhere. So I know it's about to go down. I get up there and I catch some fish, like, hang on, filibuster for a second. I got my wife calling me.
Okay.
Filibuster because, she's
I didn't know
first trimester, not feeling good.
Bird. So we Googled it. So
I'll mute myself.
Okay. All right. So I guess he was in the middle of talking about Possum Kingdom, but just to give you guys a little bit of preview, the weekend before, made my way up to Michigan for the St. Clair, the Lake St. Clair tournament, and I have a fun story from the Saturday event from that. To share. So Drew hasn't even heard it yet, so that ought to be fun. But here, let me pull up this. Let's just look at Drew's fish in the meantime. I just pulled this up, the Possum Kingdom Lake. So we can look at this screen right here. And this is from day one, of course. So this is, when he was saying that he was catching all those fish and then back off. So we'll pull these up real quick. So this is the big one.
Yeah, it was a cluster. That whole fish catch was definitely a cluster. And you can see, I mean, even my turning tag is not on the board anymore. I just took it off. It was too big, too long. I was scared it was going to fall off the other side. I mean, anyway, it went kind of crazy there. But, yeah, so nice. It was an amazing fishery, a great day. And there's another not solid 19 and looks like a 19 and a half or there, something like that. You're just unbelievable. So day two, I get there and I start catching them. The only thing I was missing on day two, I got a limit of really nice fish, pretty big. And is this day two or day one still?
This is day one. All right,
let's go day two. So when I got there, I mean, I'm catching good fish. I just didn't catch the size fish. You know what I mean? That there wasn't like a 22 there. There wasn't a 21 or 20 and a half. They were all like 19. They were almost 20 inches. Some of them were, almost 20. Solid fish. But
this is the cleanest I've ever seen the deck of your boat too, by the way.
Yeah, that's right. Because it was in the morning. I knew where I was going. I knew what I was doing. I didn't have a bunch of stuff I'd already cut off and been, So you can see there. Yeah, there's
progression. There's a couple things there on fish number two.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, let's look at three.
But yeah, and then we can, finish on with the story. So what I do want you to show everyone, what I want to give credit to the guys that won this is actually go to, after this fish, go to day one's results. I got a couple cool things I'm going to do here, and then I'm going to wrap up what I did there. Yeah, go to day one. I want to see something. So 6th place was Russ Snyder's. Now, what did Russ have? 92.5. So 7th place was 91.25. Okay, look what I had on day 2. Click over to day 2. So remember, they're in 6th and 7th. I'm all the way down in 11th, and I had 91.75. So I'm basically I'm a 6.5, a 6.5 place finish on day 2 for what happened day 1. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when I'm out there, I thinking to myself, okay, I just got 91.75. At the end of day 2, I'm expecting to stay in 2nd place. If Joe or someone else really caught him, then I stay in 2nd. If not, I'm expecting to possibly be in the 1st, because I think about it, I did a 2nd place finish day, and from what I knew at that point, right, the day before, and usually the day 2s are lesser, not greater. And I did a 6th, 7th place finish. So I'm thinking, dude, that's solid. That is solid. I might have won this thing. So that just gives so much credit to how well those guys caught those fish. I mean, unbelievable. And I've got the length to weight calculator pulled up here. I'll share it in a minute to show you guys the weight that we caught. It was unbelievable what these guys caught. And it made me feel good. I definitely did not lose this event. And, I just got beat. Those guys just went out and won it. So, I mean, just giant fish. So to wrap up what happened, though, I know Jason Alford's interested in this. What happened on day 1, I caught a bunch of fish early, and it was probably like 7 something, because we could make our first cast, I believe, at 5:30. So it was like a little after 7, and I did my first sort of like reset after some chaos and a bunch of fish catches.
Yeah.
And it sort of slowed down. Because I caught like a hybrid and a white bass and some drum, and everything was there, which is a good sign. Everything that eats shad. So I got out of there and I retied, and I spent like a while. I mean, it was a good 30 minutes. I just let it rest, and I went further down the channel, fished some other areas that I had caught fish back on day 1 of practice, because the water conditions now are getting closer and closer and closer to what they were that first day of practice, right? Which I never thought this area would be in play again after all that rain. So I was able to pick up a few more fish there. I don't know I can't remember if they actually helped me or not, maybe a little bit. But I eventually, after I went down and then I came back up to this spot, it was a solid like hour and a half. I'd let it rest, and I was able to get up there and catch a few more, but it wasn't nearly as good. The shad weren't flipping as much. The birds were gone. Well, I guess most of those birds had left because I was all right up in their face. But anyway, so I did it. And then I went all the way down and fished that spot I'd hit in the morning where I'd caught a 19.25, that one little area that was bringing in clear water from the lake that I told you guys about, that I hit early the first thing that morning so I could come back midday. I did that. Then I fished out. And then I went to other spots of the actual lake that had little drainages like that, like water coming in, that I'd seen some big fish pre-fishing, just to let that area in the back of the creek just rest as long as possible. And so finally, it's like, 1 something. I'm thinking this is the time it happened the day before. I'm going to get back up there and give myself 30 minutes to hit it one last time. And what I did actually before I went up there, I had passed by where I'd launched. So I did something that made me feel so much better about going back up there. I went by where I launched. I got out, drove the truck away, got service, submitted all of my fish. So my 91.75 is in. I'm good. If I don't catch another fish, at least those fish are in. If I, drop my phone or whatever, at least I feel good they're in. And, maybe I have enough to win or stay second or whatever. It's obviously going to be a good finish, right?
Yeah.
No matter what. So I went all the way back up there and had about, 20, 30 minutes. And I want to say, I can't remember if I milked one more fish at one of these runs back to this area. I milked one last 19-inch, 19-inch fish. And that was my day. But anyway, yeah, it wasn't the final push up there, I don't believe. It might have been. I don't know. Who knows? But anyway, I did end up in 91 3/4, and that was pretty exciting. And that's the tournament. 4th place. Those guys just crushed it. And I got Shane here. We got Shane here in the queue. We're gonna add him in. He's the guy who hooked me up with the Motor Guide remote. My Motor Guide pro staff teammate here, and good dude from California. So let's add him in. What's up, man?
Hey, what's up, man? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, we just want to get you in here and get your thoughts real quick. I know you said you have like 10 minutes, right?
Yeah, we're about to have some taco night here at my parents' house, but I figured I could hop on really quick. Good to see you, man.
Yeah, you too. How was the ride back? You made it all safe and sound?
Yeah, I made it safe, man. My wife flew out. We got to spend our anniversary downtown Fort Worth, which was just
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We lost you there. We lost your audio.
Did I come back?
Oh, yeah. Now you're back. You're back. Well, cool.
Hold on.
No, you're
Sorry about that.
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah, I'm on my phone. But anyways, we were down in downtown Fort Worth, had a great time down there, and it was a good way to kind of, calm things down. I drove 19 hours to get out to Fort Worth or get out to Possum Kingdom, and it was fun to have my wife fly out. We spent a couple days out in there, and we went to the classic weigh-in, saw all
Nice.
you guys and saw a bunch of the pros, and it was just a really good time, man. I'm still thinking about what just happened this past week.
Yeah, it was nuts. So give me because we don't have time for you to do like a recap on what happened with your event. Let's just hear what you thought about the overall event for Bass and the Kayak Series, this championship.
Yeah.
How was it? What do you look forward to, maybe even next year happening and stuff like that?
I mean, I got some time to think about it on the way home for sure. And even at work, I was just like, man, back at work, and I was just out there with all these guys, fishing with you guys and fishing at the Bass, the inaugural event for the championship out there. And I really feel like they rolled out the red carpet. I was fortunate enough to get in and see you guys receive your awards on stage. And I just feel like it was well worth the trip out from California. And if anyone is qualified to go to South Carolina next year, I really, really recommend that you try everything you possibly can to go. It's definitely worth the experience. Seeing, Mark hoist that trophy, I felt like that was going to be, the motivation that a lot of anglers needed to kind of, continue to, try to do that now. That's like the new goal for every one of us anglers is to try to hoist that trophy now that Mark has done that. And I just feel like it's really good for the sport, and I'm just super motivated. I got home and I'm like, okay, when's the next Bass event that I can try to qualify for?
Right.
And I'm trying to figure out ways to go to Pickwick, maybe try to fly in, fly out. But man, it's addicting for sure. And it's super fun.
Yeah, they did a great job. And, actually that stage and what you were talking about when you see that, and just what Bass, the show they put on at that classic is something else. I mean, if you've never been, you definitely need to go. It really is just like the Super Bowl bass fishing, which is kind of what it's called. But I'll say this, man, I need like a statistician or someone here. I need Jason Offord to chime in with this, because it was his stat. So Jason Offord gave me a stat. We're talking about that stage, right? That I was a little bit humbled, and it made me I was like blown away when Jason, a lot of us, I think, had a lot of time to think on the way home. And so I guess he loves the sport so much and he follows it so much. He must've just thought about this, and then he double checked it, and he's accurate. He said, Drew, he texted me. He's like, do you realize you're the only kayak angler that has ever walked across the FLW championship stage on the kayak division and the Bassmaster Classic stage on the Kayak Series? And I was like, dude, that's pretty cool, man. That's a cool stat. Cool. I was like, that took me back. I don't know why that stat just meant so much. I was like, that's crazy, man, because, KBF teamed up with FLW and then they had a championship. But anyway, so
I really feel like Bass is going to stick around. I don't think they're going anywhere. I think it's just going to continue to get better for sure. And dude, it was just, they definitely rolled out the red carpet. Dude, my wife was sitting next to me. We were watching day 2 of the weigh-in of the Rio Classic, and we were in the stadium, and she was like, it clicked for her, like what, we were a small part, a subdivision of what was going on. And it kind of clicked to her, like how, big it really was. And one interesting thing too is like, we're all in the bass fishing world, so we kind of see like how big it is, but like for an outsider to come in that has really no idea how big it is. And then when you're inside of that was literally like the world of bass fishing, and you see the pros walking around like they're celebrities, and you see like all these different things going on. It really shows you how big our sport, really is when you're there walking around on the floor.
for sure, man. I think next year we'll see probably an AOI race on the bass side.
Yeah.
I hope that means they're going to add a couple more events. It's kind of hard to have an AOI race with 5, honestly, but I hope that they can pull that off, and that'll help us be able to get, I think, the best guys in the championship if we start going by AOI points. So hopefully that'll happen, and some 2-day tournaments will happen. Randy over there in the comments is saying that 147,000 visitors to the Classic Expo. That was second biggest in Classic history.
Yeah.
And just think about it, guys. I keep saying this, and we've talked about it, Shane. And this kayak fishing is the soccer of the fishing world. It is. It's the low cost of entry. So therefore, we're going to have the greater numbers, more eyeballs, and we're going to get. They're not going to have us a Friday at the very beginning for very long on that stage. It may be. Our tournament may be those same days. I don't know, but it may be eventually that we're there when there's a little bit more crowds there, because more people in the crowd are going to be kayak anglers, as time continues to go on. So they're letting me write articles on Bassmaster.com and getting more kayak content out there. They have kayak sponsors, Old Town's a sponsor. It's not going anywhere. This thing's just going to keep growing and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So pretty cool to be at the first one.
I'd love to share something really quick about my day one. Day one, I was on a chatterbait bite. I was paralleling seawalls, and I lost a couple good fish in the morning. I caught a 19.75 like right out of the gate, and I was feeling really good. But then I lost a couple of fish right after that, and it was just getting to me all day. I caught a fish flipping, and then I caught another fish chatterbait fishing, and then I had 3 fish, and I was grinding. I'm giving the short version because I know we don't have maybe too much time, but at the very end of the day, this is day one, I cast out. It's 157, and I stick my 4th fish at 157. Lines out was at 2, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, is this kind of gonna go down right now?" So I take a picture, throw it back in, 158. I cast out again at it's probably 159. I'm looking at my fish finder, literally watching the time. I'm reeling in, dude, and my 5th fish hits me right at the boat. It's 159. I catch it, flip it into my boat, and I see it strike 2:00 on the dot. And I was like, oh no. And I literally put it down on the board and just get it as fast as I can, snap a photo. And my photo said 2:00. And this is kind of a cool, learning thing maybe for a lot of guys, but I called Dwayne right after that. And I was like, hey man, this is what happened. My phone says 2:00. And he was like, let me check it out. So I submitted the photo and everything. And he's like, dude, your photo's good. It was 2 p.m. and 28 seconds. And he said if it was 2:01, then he wouldn't accept it. But I guess we have that minute, whole minute right after 2. And dude, it was I literally broke down in tears a little bit. It was just that put me at 80, I think 80 and a half on day one, and put me in contention. But my day 2, I caught 5 fish, but 2 of them didn't measure, and I ended up taking 44th. But I still had a great time, dude. And that was kind of a cool day 1 for me,
Yeah, it's a very cool day 1. Great story, man. Yeah. And again, huge thanks for hooking me up with that remote, because it helped me out big time for sure. So
that was sweet. I'm glad.
Yeah. Good example of the kayak fishing community. You're one of the good guys out there representing the West Coast, and I'd like to see more opportunities out there for you guys. I know you got a lot of stuff going on out there right now, but I sure would like to see, even more for you guys out there, because you guys can really catch them. And even was it Justin Kerr in the Classic showed that, how West Coast guys can really catch them. So it's pretty cool, man. And so you guys got
Jason's from California,
Yeah.
So that was cool too.
Yes, that's right. He just moved. So yeah, and he got 6. So, but anyway, hey, there's Christine. There's the
congratulations,
new mother. I don't know.
Girl, yeah.
Yes, that's right. So anyway, I've seen a lot of people thanking us in the comments, are thanking, my wife and I expecting the baby girl. We appreciate that. My buddy Randy from Georgia there. Thanks a lot, Randy, if you're still watching. But we're excited about that. So all right, man. Well,
be short behind you, man. Now that you got 2 kids, we'll see. We'll kind of be in that together. Me and my wife are definitely thinking about it for sure. So
you got one that's the same age as ours already. So
yeah,
there you go. Go do it, man. We'll be in the same time frame. And I promise you this. Look, we can take a vacation. We'll meet in the middle. Meet in the middle at Possum Kingdom Lake. All right, that's where we go. Bring the kids. The kids can play. Meet in the middle at Possum Kingdom Lake. From West Coast to East Coast, we'll just meet there. So, anyway,
well, hey,
yeah, man.
I'll see you in Louisiana.
All right, buddy. Sounds good, man. See ya.
All right, have a good one.
All right, see ya. Oh man, but all right. So, Ken, what else? Is there anything else I need to wrap up for my story? I think that's about it. I think
the
that's
last thing you wanted to do was you said you had the weight graph to share.
Yeah. I'll share that so that you guys can see how ridiculous this is. Okay, share screen. Here we go. Give me a second. And can you guys, am I on it yet? Yeah, you got it. So Pendergraph had, this is day one, had approximately, according to the length to weight, which, man, I forgot who sent that in already. The name of the viewer, the fan of ours on the show that sent it in. But he just deserves so much credit because they may even be including this, in the standings. I talked to Dwayne about it. Hopefully this is something they can incorporate because the estimated weight would mean a lot to the sport of bass fishing to understand what we're doing, in length, because they don't know what 100 inches means or what 95 means or 88. They don't know. But day one, he had 21.27. Everybody that I talked to and the fish I caught, we all felt they were on the heavier side. They were fatter. Some of them even looked like people thought they were pre-spawn. Some fish, if you look at Brad Case's fish, had a red tail, like he thought they were just off the bed. Anyway, they were fat fish. So, I mean, I would say it's probably a little bit heavier than this, but you never know. Day two, he had basically a 35-pound bag. So put those two together. You're looking at almost 60 pounds for 2 days, almost 60 pounds. The Bassmaster Classic just got one with 50 in just 2 days. In 3 days. So that's pretty insane. Obviously, different body of water and all that, but I don't think anybody would have won this event other than, Mark. And Joe would have probably got second no matter who was fishing, So let's look here at Joe's fish. He had, what is it, 20 here? I'm going to try to pull this down my cursor. 29, 30 pounds one day and basically 24. And then just for the fun of it, I threw mine in there. See what I had. I had basically 24 pounds, and then I had like an 18-pound bag basically. So pretty solid weight of fish as well. So that's insane, man. That's insane. Wow. People just don't realize
it that way too. Like it's just I'm so used to seeing inches and knowing that like 112 inches is absolutely bizarre. But then to put weights beside it at the same time of what it would be about, is compared to what they caught that weekend at the for the Bassmaster Classic itself that's pretty intense.
All right, so we'll remove this, and then that's see, Ryan's asking if we can share the image on our page. Yeah, we'll share that. You talking about the link to weight, Ryan? Sure. So the last final thing, did you want to share your story now or you want to do it on another podcast? I know we
can, yeah. It won't I'll cut it down. It won't be that long.
All right.
So our buddy Jake and I went to St. Clair in Michigan the weekend before you went down to Texas, right? And we were fishing, of course. We had one day to pre-fish. Like we got up at like 3:00 in the morning separately and drove and met there. Friday morning, pre-fished an area, found some fish. Nothing crazy, but we didn't have time to go anywhere else. So that's where we decided to fish on Saturday. And we start fishing. So the weather calls for, this is a little preset, the weather calls for some pretty decent winds, like up to 15 miles per hour. And when they call for up to 15 miles per hour, that means it's probably going to blow 25 miles per hour, right? Well, St. Clair's a big old bowl and it's shallow. So those winds can really, it can look like Lake Erie or one of the big lakes when those winds get up like that. And you can get, some rollers going, some 4 or 5 foot waves at times, some pretty crazy stuff. So it's calling for wind later in the morning. So we're like, all right, we're going to go out and we're going to just try to catch as many fish as we can in the morning, because we're probably eventually going to get ran off where we were putting in at. Like, it just wasn't going to be conducive to stay out there very much longer. So we're fishing, and we all of a sudden, Jake's probably half a mile away from me, and he calls me on the phone and says, "Hey, can you come over?" I was like, "Yeah, why? What's up? What's going on?" He's like, "I just got a muskie. It's the first muskie he had ever caught." And
Wow.
He's like, "It's giant." He's like, "I have a giant muskie." I was like, "All right, I'll be there." So like, I put my phone away, I put the motor guide hammer down, and I zoomed right over there and got some pictures. And I had just started to catch some fish myself. Yes,
Congrats, Jake.
So I just had to start catching a fish. I caught like 8 different species that weekend. Throwing that out there, I don't think there's probably only 2 species left in St. Clair that I didn't catch on that weekend. So I had a fishing weekend, but I had just found this little pattern, this little not a pattern, but a spot, a little stretch, and I had caught a smallmouth, and I caught a rock bass, and these were like kind of the first hits I'd gotten all day. So I went and took pictures of Jake, and then as soon as that was done, I immediately ran right back to my line that I was running, and on the first run through, smack.
Dang.
So Jake's is bigger than this. So this is like we didn't measure him or anything, but this I estimated it like 36 inches or so based on that 40-incher that I caught with you. The year before. And sorry if people don't like the fish grips in them, but I'm not putting my hands anywhere near that thing. She swam away. It was fine. So crushed this 36-inch muskie, back-to-back muskies, literally within 10 minutes of each other, about a half a mile, quarter mile from each other, back-to-back muskies, which is wild considering how, hard they are to find sometimes. So catch a big muskie, okay? So not great on tournament day, but fun, worth the story, I guess. So back to fishing. It's later in the morning, and the wind picks up, and these waves are starting. Like, it was a little choppy, and now they're getting to like 1 to 2 foot waves. And we're like, all right, this is going to get bad. Like, we'll fish around here for another like half hour, and then we'll start heading back to the launch just so we're close in case it gets real bad so we can get in, right? So we're starting to head back, and I catch another little fish, or like, I forget what I had to do something. So I pulled off in this little cove, and I think I needed a break or to eat or something. Anyway, regardless, I pulled off in this little cove and spent a couple minutes, and then I head back out. And when I head back out, we're now at 3 or 4 foot little rollers. Okay, so it's getting real wild.
Yeah, wow.
If you remember that day in Florida when we were heading back during that wind, it's getting pretty close to that.
Yeah.
It's getting a little wild, and Jake says it's time to go, and I'm like, oh yes, obviously it's time to go. But me being me, and like you, just never really trying to give up a whole lot, I still have my lure out there, right? So I'm going, and I get hit again in these 3 foot, like I'm going, just big old citron bobber out there, just going up, and I get hit, so I reel it in, and I go to net this thing, Drew, and it comes out of the water, jumps out of the water, lands on my net, and does a perfect flip. So you like popcorning on a trampoline or something like that.
Yeah.
Perfect momentum, bounces off my net, flies into my kayak, and lands in between my legs. The smallmouth, it was like 15 inches or so.
Yeah.
But the jerkbait's hooked on the outside of his mouth. So he lands in between my legs and slams the jerkbait into my thigh.
Yeah, this is not good.
So now I have a feisty 15-inch smallmouth or so. I don't know, 14, 15-inch smallmouth, the real feisty teenagers.
Yeah, right.
Slamming back and forth this jerkbait into my thigh while my kayak's in 3, 4 foot rollers going like this.
Dude, that's not what you want. This is not what you want at all.
So I get the fish off of the lure, somehow, and it's just laying in the bottom of my kayak. And I look at my leg. I'm looking down, and this jerkbait's just in my thigh. So I just cut the line just right at it. I'm like, I'm not letting it flop around anymore based on my. So I cut the line off right like that. And I said, set the throw down. I take a picture of the fish. Of course, why not? Take a picture of the fish, put all that stuff away. I'm looking at it. I pull at it. It's in the. Luckily, I only had one hook of one treble in my thigh, but the rest of the treble hooks are wrapped in my pants.
Right.
Okay? So that's this right here. This is the situation we're looking at. This one right here is buried into my thigh at this point.
You are literally hooked on wild waters right there, my friend.
So now, the wind's getting worse. We're talking 3 to 5s, not like straight not straight up to 5s, but now we're talking 3 to 5s. I have a jerkbait in my thigh, and I need to get back to the launch.
Jeez.
So, or at least back to the river that we launched out of.
Yeah.
So, heading that way, have the motor guide going like full blast, and you remember, like I just mentioned, like when the waves are that bad, you can't really like take your hand off that steering mechanism. Or
no.
You're going to get spun in the waves or something like that. So I'm going to get crashed on. So these waves are crashing over the front of my boat, and it's spilling water in, as you saw in that picture. Like I have the scupper plugs in, so I have to steer, or it's going to go sideways, right? Mm-hmm. Well, the water's starting to fill into my kayak because of these waves. Everyone is crashing over. So I'm starting to get a pool of water. I was like, I got to deal with this. So now I go to reach down to pull that scupper plug out. And I pop it out so it starts to drain, and I just kind of toss it on the kayak. So I'm moving a little bit farther, and this wave comes up and smacks my paddle because I have it in a Yak Attack roto grip, holding it for like all day. But these waves are coming really high and really hard because I'm like coming and slapping down. Smacks my paddle. It flies off. I have to catch it, and it catches in the water. The blade does, so it catches the weight. So I'm swinging it around so I don't lose my paddle, steering at the same time. And was it a jerkbait stuck in my thigh?
Was it across your lap this way, or was it? So
it was up and down.
Parallel. Okay,
parallel. So it was parallel to me. So it smacks. The back blade hits the water and cuts into the
back blade. Yeah.
So I'm holding my paddle to the right, steering with the little controller in my left hand. Jerkbait stuck in my thigh, and I look down and water's starting to build up again. The water pressure had pushed the scupper plug back into the hole, back into the scupper. So I have to pop my paddle back into its place and hope that it stays.
Right.
And then I have to reach down to try to get the scupper plug again, while trying not to get the long sleeve of my shirt stuck in the treble hooks that are hanging out of the jerkbait that's on my thigh. Because then my arm would be attached to the jerkbait, which was stuck in my thigh. And so
you got you got a lot going on there, man.
So I popped that scupper plug out, and the worst, not the worst, but the only thing I could think of to keep it from going back into the scupper hole, I just popped the hand tab into my mouth. So now I have this rubber scupper plug in between my teeth, holding a paddle in my right hand and holding the steering mechanism on my left. So all the while going through 3-footers, like
just trying to survive.
Rollers. Yeah, it's white capping out on St. Clair and stupid stuff. Just trying not to flip and have a bad situation. Trying to get out of a bad situation that just kept getting worse.
Yeah.
So we get back. So I get back to the river. We haul into the harbor, and then it's calm. And I'm starting to calm down a little bit because you're all jacked up when that's happening. Calm down a little bit, running up the creek, trying to relax a little bit because my thigh is throbbing at this point. And this big old sheriff boat comes rolling by. I was like, just keep going. Don't talk to me. I don't have time for anything. I just don't have time to deal with you right now. Like, please don't.
Right.
And the window opens. I'm like, oh God. He pops his head out. He goes, "That's cheating." And then he pops his head back in and drives away. So he didn't he was totally nice and cool and fun about it. But I was like, I don't have time to deal with getting checked right now. I was legal and everything, but I was just I don't have time to go through it. I need to go get this lure out of my leg.
Yeah, really.
So I motor all the way back up to the takeout. I get out. I hobble up to my truck, and I luckily have scissors in my truck, and I cut a circle of my pants out around the lure. I have I pull Jake off the water. He comes and does the braid trick, pops the
Nice.
hook out.
Nice.
So now I'm hookless. The bait's out of my thigh. I only have 3 fish at this point for my stringer. And then we get back in, go up the creek. These are largemouth now in these creeks versus the smallmouth that are out in Lake St. Clair. And I did not bring any largemouth stuff with me that I knew of. And I was like, well, we have like an hour or 2 left to try to fish. And I'm just looking around my kayak, and there's a frog in there that I left from like 2 trips ago. So tie that thing on.
Why not?
Catch 2 largemouth, finish out my stringer, and call it a day.
and he moved up in the AOI standings a little bit. There you go. That's a cool story, man.
I was able to cancel out one of my one fish kissing me events. So
nice. The only thing that reminds me of where you were scared, in that photo, if you even pull it up again, I can see that scupper so close to your hooks and how you're moving the waves. You don't want to get hooked with your arm, like you're saying, when you're reaching for it. The only thing that just reminded me of is when my wife and I were traveling through the desert with our dogs, and in the West, we were Arizona or somewhere, and we let them out to use the restroom. Right, there's 3 of them, and one of them starts yelping like crazy, and they stepped in this one got stepped in a cactus or something, and I guess it got scared and it jumped over into the cactus and got spikes all over it. Just cactus, I'm talking tons of it all over it.
Yeah.
And now these things are stuck. This is not a normal little teeny cactus we're talking about. These things are lodged. And somehow we were able to get it, and it's just yelping like crazy. It was so sad. Well, I'm holding this dog, now we got to go to the nearest animal hospital, which is a long way away.
You called me.
Yeah, we called you. Yeah.
You called me.
We're like, this dog's not gonna, make it. We're like, this isn't gonna make it. This dog's so small. It's just got so many spikes in it and spines in it. So I'm trying to hold it, calm it down. It's shaking like crazy. And at one point, when it hurts, when we're bouncing, right? You're bouncing on the road. The dog every once in a while gets some extra, pain from the spikes, and she just yelps and does something. I try to hold her, and she just jumped all over me a lot more, and then it got me stuck to her. Now the spikes are in me, and it kills, man. It is so painful. I understand what she went through to have 30 of them in her. So now I'm stuck to her, man. It was a much worse situation, much worse. To have both of them. I'm not saying much worse than yours. I'm saying once you have both, dude, if you would have gotten both, if your arm would have been stuck and your leg, I'm telling you, that could have been a real dangerous situation for sure. Luckily you had somebody out there with you. But anyway, we eventually got that dog to an actual human hospital, I believe. I think it was. I don't know. And we got I forget how they did it with it. Anyway, they got the cactus out of our little dog, and she's good.
Being me still, I was like, all right, I need a picture of this fish with this jerkbait in my thigh.
Yeah.
I need to remember which one of these little suckers did it to me. So
show it off. Yeah, man.
That's it. So that was my big main funny story. Day 2, I went out and found a community of largemouth and finished better than I did in day 1. Not nearly good enough to compete in that place because it takes over 100 inches to win. But I found a community of largemouth in the middle of Lake St. Clair, and I was like, well, I'm not going to leave fish to put up a limit. So I put up a limit, caught an 18.75 largemouth in the middle of Lake St. Clair. And
interesting.
Called it a weekend. I mean, it was fun. I can't complain about catching 8 different species, man. It was a fun fishing weekend. I didn't have a great tournament weekend, but it was a fun fishing weekend. So.
Right. That's cool, man. Well, good deal. All right. Well, I guess we'll wrap this up. I'm heading to Lake Champlain next I'm actually bringing the entire family. The in-laws are going. We're all going over there. We got a nice Airbnb, so it'll be kind of fun being out over there on the Hobie Bass Open Series again and try to make an improvement on some of my AOI points there. And hey, never fished Champlain ever. So I'm excited. It's world class. There's a rumor going around. I don't know if this is true or not. If anyone wants to confirm that we're only allowed to launch from the New York side, kind of a bummer because we're staying on the Vermont side, but I don't know why is that? Do you know? You heard this?
I did read that somewhere on the Hobie stuff, and I think it has to do with permitting, maybe.
Permit,
I could be making that up, but
yeah. All right. Well,
it might have been on their website. If you have some more stuff to say, I might be able to find it.
Yeah, no, I don't. It's fine. I don't really have any much else to say. But other than I was planning, most everywhere I was planning on fishing was on the Vermont side. So there you go, and that's where we got our house. So that's kind of a bummer. But I mean, every tournament it seems like we're fighting through some sort of adversity. You know what I mean? Like, but it's equal for everybody. Whether it's flooding on Possum Kingdom or Pickwick or everywhere we go, the conditions seem to change at the last moment. And now learning we can only launch from the New York side, it wouldn't be as big of a deal in an event that allows motors like Bass or KBF, but you can't cross Lake Champlain. You can't go 10 miles across the lake. You know what I mean? To go to the other side to fish the Vermont, you can't risk that. It's way too big. You know what I mean? I don't think many people are going to be able to fish the Vermont side. Even in a Hobie, there's a few places you could kind of get across a small little channel maybe, but it's pretty much going to cut that lake in half for us, which is kind of a bummer. But anyway, it is what it is, and I'm looking forward to spending some time with the family over there and seeing whoever else shows up. I know Mike Iaconelli signed up, so that'll be cool. We'll be able to compete against him again, and we'll see what happens.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah, man.
It'll be exciting to watch that and keep up with that one as well. Hopefully, you can continue your success and your ability to finish well and across all the platforms. So
yeah, man, that would be cool, man. That's the goal. So guys, thanks for tuning in. If you're still here, we appreciate it. If you're listening on iTunes afterwards, we thank you guys as well. Don't forget to leave us a return. We always what I say, return, a review. Over to you, Tune. A review. Leave us a review or a rating. I was gonna say rating. See, a review or a rating, that'd be awesome. We appreciate it. And thanks again for tuning in. And as always, live in the current, which means don't just get your kayak out there in the currents we're talking about here, but live in the present. As we've seen with COVID, just life is short, it's precious, and anything can happen any day. So get out there and live it to the fullest. And that's why we say live in the current at Crescent Kayaks. Ken, any last words, my friend?
No, I think you got it, man. Thanks for listening, everybody. Give us a shout out if you need something. I have that banner running. Follow us on our different platforms. Shoot us a message if you have questions, anything like that. And we'll be back on again and talk about something silly next time, I'm sure.
All right, guys. Sounds good. See ya.